The humiliation hit me harder than any slap ever could, not because of what she said, but because of where she said it loudly, publicly, and with a smile that told everyone I was no longer worth respect. I stood frozen in the bright afternoon sunlight, my 5-year-old son gripping my hand tightly, his small fingers trembling as laughter echoed around us. That was the moment I realized how easily people could forget who you once were, and how quickly they judged who you had become. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us that broken people still deserve dignity, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Kindness Story. Your support keeps these stories alive. My name is Rowan Hale, and that day was supposed to be simple, just a school reunion, a harmless afternoon. I had ironed my only decent shirt the night before, carefully smoothing the wrinkles, hoping it would still look respectable. I polished my worn shoes until they reflected light, though no amount of effort could hide the cracks in the leather. I combed my hair slowly in the bathroom mirror while my son, Theo, sat on the edge of the tub humming to himself, swinging his legs, unaware of the storm waiting outside. Life had not turned out the way I once imagined. 10 years earlier, I had been the ambitious one, the promising one, the guy everyone thought would make it big. But then my marriage collapsed, my career derailed, and custody battles drained every last ounce of energy and savings I had. When my ex-wife, Maribel, walked away, she took more than our home. She took my confidence, my reputation, and left me holding a life I had to rebuild from rubble. Now I worked long shifts at a logistics warehouse, lifting crates, counting boxes, loading trucks under the burning sun. It paid just enough to keep the lights on, to buy Theo school supplies, and to put food on the table. I never complained, at least not out loud. My son deserved a father who stayed standing, even when tired. The reunion was hosted at a lakeside event hall, all glass walls and sunlight, with soft music floating through open doors. People I hadn't seen in a decade gathered in polished clothes, laughing loudly, comparing promotions, marriages, investments. Their success shimmered in the daylight like something unreal. I felt it the moment I stepped inside, that invisible measuring stick everyone carries, and I was already losing. I kept Theo close, telling myself I was there for him too. I wanted him to see that his father didn't hide, that I still showed up. Then I saw Maribel. She stood near the refreshment table, glowing. Designer dress, perfect makeup, hair shining. A successful man beside her, hand resting on her waist like a trophy. When her eyes met mine, her lips curved, not into surprise, but into amusement. She walked toward me, heels clicking softly against the polished floor, drawing attention without effort. I could feel people watching, curiosity brewing, and then she laughed, not loud at first, just enough to sting. She looked at my shoes, then at my shirt, then at Theo, whose backpack straps were frayed. Her smile widened, cruel and satisfied. She spoke casually, as if making an observation rather than a judgment, but her voice carried. She said enough for others to hear, enough to make me feel small. She reminded me of everything I had lost. How I used to dream big, how now I worked simple jobs, how I looked tired, how hard single parenting must be when you're not successful. I felt the heat rise to my face. My ears rang. I could hear murmurs around us. Whispers, pity mixed with entertainment. Theo tightened his grip on my hand. That's when I knew the humiliation wasn't just mine. It was his too. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the floor to swallow me whole. But I stayed still. I didn't defend myself. I didn't argue. I just stood there, breathing slowly, reminding myself that reacting would only make it worse. Maribel finally walked away, satisfied, laughter trailing behind her like perfume. I crouched down in front of Theo, adjusting his backpack straps, forcing a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I told him everything was okay, that people sometimes forget how to be kind. He nodded, but his eyes were filled with confusion. I straightened up, feeling like I weighed 100 tons. Then the doors opened. Sunlight spilled in, brighter than before, and for a moment everything seemed to pause. A woman entered. She didn't wear flashy jewelry. No dramatic makeup, but there was something about her presence. Calm, commanding, effortless. She moved with purpose, her eyes scanning the room like she belonged there, like nothing could intimidate her. People noticed. Whispers started again, but this time they weren't cruel. They were reverent. I didn't recognize her at first. Why would I? People like her lived in a different world. But when she looked at me, truly looked, her expression changed. Something flickered in her eyes, recognition, surprise, then warmth. She walked straight toward me. Every step felt unreal. She stopped in front of me and Theo, her gaze gentle but sharp, as if reading stories behind my tired eyes. She didn't introduce herself immediately. She simply smiled, a real smile, and suddenly the room felt different. Her name was Aveline Cross. I would later learn she was a billionaire tech founder, philanthropist, and one of the most influential women in the region. But in that moment, she was just someone who looked at me like I still mattered. She crouched down to Theo's level, her tone soft, asking about his favorite subjects, his hobbies, what made him smile. Theo, usually shy, opened up instantly, animated, describing his love for space and dinosaurs. She listened, actually listened. Then she stood and turned to me. She spoke kindly. She said my name, though I didn't remember telling her. She said she hadn't expected to see me here, but she was glad she did. She said I looked stronger than before. Stronger. No one had used that word for me in years. People were staring now. Marable had frozen near the refreshment table, her confident posture stiff. Aveline placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, and with that simple gesture, the atmosphere shifted, not with drama, not with confrontation, with dignity. She asked about my life, my work, my son, my struggles. Not out of curiosity, but out of genuine care. I didn't embellish, I didn't downplay. I simply told the truth, and she didn't pity me. She respected me. She told me she remembered me from years ago, from a charity project where I had volunteered tirelessly, staying late, helping others without being asked. She said I had stood out then, not because I was loud, but because I was kind. I had forgotten that version of myself. But she hadn't. People were silent now, and for the first time that day, I stood taller. She didn't shame Marable. She didn't call anyone out. She simply acknowledged my worth so clearly that no one dared question it. That afternoon, something inside me shifted, not because a billionaire noticed me, but because someone saw my pain and treated it like it mattered. After the reunion, Aveline offered me a ride home. I hesitated, embarrassed by my small apartment, my old car, my life. But she insisted. She met Theo's pet turtle. She laughed when he showed her his drawings taped crookedly to the fridge. She admired my tiny balcony garden like it was a luxury view. Before she left, she gave me her card. Not with promises, just with belief. The next few weeks were surreal. She didn't offer charity. She offered opportunity. She asked me about my skills, my past ambitions, what I once loved doing. I told her about logistics management, about systems, about efficiency, how I used to enjoy making things work better. She invited me to shadow her operations team, not as a favor, as a test. I studied at night while Theo slept. I learned again, I tried again, I failed sometimes, but for the first time in years I felt alive. Slowly, my confidence returned, not because of money, but because of purpose. Marable tried to contact me after news spread. She suddenly wanted to catch up. I didn't respond. I was too busy rebuilding. Months passed. I got promoted, then trained, then trusted. I wasn't rich, but I was respected. Theo noticed the change first. My laughter came easier. My shoulders weren't always slumped. I slept better. One afternoon, as we walked home from school, he looked up at me and said he was proud of me. That broke me, not in sadness, in healing. Before the ending, I want to ask you something. If this story is touching your heart, please pause for a second, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Story. Your support tells us these stories matter. A year later, another reunion was held. I went, not to prove anything, but to remember who I was. Marable was there, so were the whispers, but they didn't sting this time, because I didn't need anyone's approval. Theo held my hand again, but this time, not out of fear, out of comfort. Aveline came too, but she stayed in the background. She didn't want attention. She never did. And I realized something. The real miracle wasn't that a billionaire appeared. The miracle was that someone believed in me when I had forgotten how to believe in myself. Humiliation had once defined me. Now resilience did. And just before this story ends, I have one special request. Please comment the word hope. If you believe that no matter how broken life becomes, it can still be rebuilt. Because if this story touched your heart even a little, then it was worth telling.